It is now the middle of July, which means in 2 weeks' time, training camp will be underway all across the NFL as we welcome you to the NFC West Huddle, our weekly look around the division with some of the finest experts from all four teams' respective cities. I'm Aaron Levine here in Seattle, joined tonight by Keyshawn Ward in San Francisco, Blake Neiman in Phoenix, and Ryan Dyrud from the LAFB Network in Los Angeles. You can see all of his stuff at lafbnetwork.com. Guys, let's get right to it. The Major League Baseball All-Star Game will be using the automated balls and strikes system with the intent to fully implement it next season. Well, that is the same Hawkeye system that the NFL will be using to determine first downs this upcoming season. What do you think about the new system for the fall in the NFL? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Keyshawn, we'll start with you.
I actually love the idea because I think all fans are, just getting sick and tired of refs misjudging calls. I mean, I got two examples that come to mind. Most recently, when the Bills and Chiefs faced each other in the playoffs, you guys all remember Josh Allen did his own tush push, and, the ref said that he didn't get the first down. But if you look at the replay, it kind of looked like he did. He got over, got the extra yard. And then another example that comes to mind, this is back in 2017 when the Raiders playing the Cowboys, and a ref actually pulled out a note card, put it between the ball and the first down, and what do you know, the ref says it wasn't first down, and the Cowboys end up winning the game. So calls like that really determine the outcome of a game. So, those calls by these refs is very subjective, so why not go with a system that's more robotic and more accurate? So let's just go with that instead going forward.
Yeah, an index card, no more representative of an analog system in a digital world. Blake, you guys buyers or sellers of the technology down in Phoenix?
I would personally be buyers. I think innovation is the future, and getting the call right is all that fans want. I mean, at the end of the day, officials get yelled at and get their fair end of criticism. So why just not take that out of play, get the right call by find technology that puts it in the technology's hands, ensures that it's truly accurate, that there's no room for speculation. I think this would be a great implementation to the NFL. I think MLB should already be implementing it into their systems at the major league level. I know they've been doing it in spring training as well as in the minor leagues. So I think adding this to the NFL would benefit fans, benefit viewers on broadcast as well, just to know that they're getting the right call every single time.
So we're 2 for 2 here. Ryan, the whole video explaining the Hawkeye system on the NFL website actually shows all the equipment at SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles. What do you think about it?
Well, Aaron, I mean, the correct answer is yes, you have the technology, use the technology, but I'll be different from the panel, and we'll do something a little different here. And I'm going to say, to err is to be human, and that is what makes sport so beautiful, is kind of the human element to it. It hasn't been fully taken over by AI like we've seen so many of our industries. And we wouldn't have any more bar fights or discussions or podcast debates if every call was right all the time. It would take that aspect out of it. So I'll go just to be different from the panel. I will say, hey, let's keep the human element in it. Let's keep these odd intricacies of using index cards to measure first downs and have some fun with it. The correct answer is the technology, but I'll be a little different for the sake of being different.
I love the originality there, and your point is well taken. As for me, I mentioned it earlier this week. The sport of tennis has been using the same Hawkeye system since 2006, and there have been very few complaints. I mean, the fact that Major League Baseball and the NFL have basically been living in the dark ages for so long, kind of hard to understand. Now, to Ryan's point, I'm going to give baseball the benefit of the doubt because of, traditionalists and the fact that human error often leads to everyone's favorite pastime of watching managers and umpires get in each other's faces and throw tantrums on the field, kick dirt on one another. But with the NFL, I understand the discussions and everything that's happening between fans, but I can't think of another good reason why they haven't done this sooner. We've had replay review forever, coaches' challenges, and yet we still rely on human beings and chain gangs to spot the ball on the field. Without using all the technology available to us, the NFL generated more than $23 billion in revenue last season. You think they would do everything in their power to use every bell and whistle available when it comes to technology to make these games as fair as possible. So, yes, I am very excited for them to get things right more often than they have in the past. Okay, next topic. This season, teams are allowed to wear throwbacks or alternate uniforms up to 4 times. That's up from 3 times in the past. But in college football, teams can wear as many uniform and helmet combinations that they want. I mean, Oregon has basically made a business out of it. Would you favor a similar situation in the NFL, or do you favor teams being restricted to just a couple of uniforms, and why? Blake, we'll start with you this time.
Yeah, so this is actually right up my alley because I grew up actually near the Oregon campus, and I've always been a fan of creativity with your uniforms. I mean, it's a free country. Why not have creative freedom in what you can wear on the field? I get there's traditionalists who like the traditional team colors that they have, but having some throwback and alternate uniforms, I think, brings back some of that tradition that fans are after, some of the old uniforms. I think it would be a great thing for the NFL to just not put a cap on how many alternate uniforms you can have. Allow teams to be creative. Oregon, like you said, has made a business out of it, being unique, being different. I think that separates teams and, honestly, uniform departments and clothing wear, and it gets fans more into it, allows for more creative freedom. I'm a fan of it.
Absolutely. Ryan, what do you think in L.A.?
Yeah, I completely agree. This is one of those weird kind of rules that really never makes any sense, similar to like how coaches can get fined if they don't wear their team gear on the sidelines. I used to love when Jack Del Rio would say, you know, whatever, I'm going to wear a suit anyway, I'll pay the fine. But it makes no sense. The NFL is in the business of making money. You think they would want more jerseys to be able to sell and more opportunity for fans to have kind of a different variance of what they do. And I love all the different looks. I love these throwbacks we've seen a lot of these teams come out with. And specifically, Aaron, being here in LA, uniforms are always a hot topic for debate. When the Rams did their rebrand just a few years ago, met with a lot of criticism, but it gave them opportunity to every year kind of launch a new color, a new scheme, and it kind of gets the fan base rejuvenated about that. Obviously, up in Seattle, you guys have some great schemes with the bright lime green and all that stuff. So, I mean, I think it's a no-brainer. Like, the more variance, the more opportunity, the more fun and creativity you can do. Why would you not do that?
Yeah, the lime green up here, much better than the highlight green that they used like all the way back in like 2009 when Jim Mora was head coach for 1 year. I mean, there was so much wrong with that season, including the Mora era, but that was definitely one of them, the jerseys. I'm going to go 3 for 3 on this one. I agree with both of you guys. I know those of us who aren't at Oregon or are not Oregon alumni like to joke and make fun of the school and their sugar daddy, Phil Knight, for all the different jerseys and helmet combinations they have there. But to me, if that's my team, I would love the variety. And I'm guessing that the school itself is able to generate a lot of revenue, being able to sell those various combinations of the jerseys they wear. And think about it, to your point, Ryan, I mean, teams in the NFL have been around, first off, long enough where we know what the traditional uniforms look like. I mean, for the Niners, it's the scarlet tops. With the Rams, it's the royal blue tops with the gold letters, even with the rebrand, or the gold numbers. So we can always go back to that. But why limit teams to just one alternate jersey or one throwback jersey? Why not allow them to get creative in repping their team? Maybe not 50 combinations, but I'm cool with 5 or 6. And then it also allows the league, as I mentioned Ryan's point, the teams, they can sell all these different jersey combinations to some fans who normally buy just 1 or 2 jerseys. They might want that really cool jersey they wore in week 7 or the one they wore in week 10. It's kind of a win-win for everyone. So aside from the traditionalists, at least, because the fans do get more variety and the revenues grow even more. Finally, it said to Keyshawn, are we going 4 for 4 on this one?
Yeah, Aaron, we got to go 4 for 4. I know that's not really the point of this show. We got to have our different takes, but hey, it's kind of a dumb rule in my opinion. I could never understood why they limit teams to a certain amount of uniforms during the season. I mean, you guys kind of brought it up many times throughout you guys' takes was it's a good business model. I mean, look at the Oregon Ducks. I've literally had 2 interviews with former Oregon Ducks from this area. They kind of both told me the same thing where they chose Oregon because they could wear the amount of uniforms. And I believe the variety is better for business, make more money, fans getting more into it. I mean, heck, when I was playing Madden back in the day, anytime I played a different team in my season mode, I've always had a different uniform for the team I was playing with. Because it just kind of gets boring seeing the same uniform week in and week out, whether it's home or away. And then I just think that, you know, fans got more fun with it. And then, honestly, I remember such a weird situation last year. The Niners were playing against the Cardinals. It was super hot out here. And I remember the Niners couldn't wear a certain uniform because they already worn it like 2 times in a year, and they only had a certain amount to wear, so they had to wear something else. But it's like, why do we got to think all about all that? Just let them wear the uniform they want to wear, and just, you know, let the fans enjoy it because, you know, it makes more money for the NFL and fans enjoy it.
Yeah, so I mean, we're unanimous on that topic. Maybe we'll come up with one where people are at odds with each other a little bit going forward. Topic number 3. 2 teams in the division have already been featured on HBO's Hard Knocks. The Rams have been there twice, the Cardinals during the 2022 season. The Seahawks and Niners have not. So for the teams that have been on the show, what was your favorite storyline that was documented on the show? And for the teams that haven't, what should the biggest storyline be? Now, Ryan, since the Rams have been featured twice, let's start with you.
Yeah, so I mean, the 2016 Hard Knocks had so many great storylines. Obviously, the Rams had just moved back to Los Angeles, so that was like a big feature in it. You had Jared Goff was the first overall pick. The Rams traded up from the teens to get, so obviously they were really following Jared Goff. If you remember, there was I can't remember if it's the first episode, but there was that scene when he's in the plane flying over LA and he doesn't know if the sun like rises in the east or the west, and that was like a big hot topic of discussion. Like, how's this quarterback go to Cal, first overall pick, not know where the sun rises, and in relation to the LA beaches and whatnot. So much fun stuff. There was another fun little tidbit I remember where they had just started their training camps at UC Irvine, which is where they held it all the way until last year. They moved to LMU, and there was a scene with, I think it was like Kenny Britt and Brian Quick, who were those were the starting receivers for the Los Angeles Rams in 2016. They were like cruising around a golf cart on the UC campus, and they flipped it, and luckily did not suffer any season-long injury. But just, I think those are the fun moments of Hard Knocks, aside from some of the other storylines. And then I'll just be really quick. The 2020 version was a really interesting one because that was obviously during COVID, and they shared the Hard Knocks with the Los Angeles Chargers. So the fan bases weren't too pleased because they had to share the spotlight with the other team in LA. But, there was some funny stuff going on with COVID. They obviously had all the social distancing, and there's a scene of Sean McVay wearing just the clear visor that just looked silly, and he felt like he was like a mechanic or something. So a lot of fun storylines since the Rams have been in Hard Knocks. We'll see if they get back again soon.
Yeah, love the COVID precautions, especially with that specific year and all of the masks that they had. One quick question, Ryan. Are the Rams going to have their first training camp this year at Warner Center? Are they still in Thousand Oaks, or where are they this year?
Yep, so they're at LMU again this year.
LMU,
I think they signed a 2-year deal, and then they should be at the Warner Center next year.
Okay, cool. We're going to talk a lot more training camp next week, right before training camp begins. I'll go next. Let me start with my favorite Hard Knocks story. Tight end Luke Wilson was featured on the show when he was with the Raiders in 2019. He was cut, and then he ended up back with the Seahawks that season, where he started his career. And I remember him telling us how much of a farce some of that show was in detail. At one point, they were telling his story, and they used a video angle of a different tight end getting lit up by a defender in practice. It was not even him. And they aired that episode, they portrayed it as him, and Luke was getting blown up by all of his friends and family for taking this huge hit that he never even took. And so that was just one of his complaints about how the show took creative license to push narratives that he felt weren't completely true. That being said, it is an entertaining show, and if it was the Seahawks, I'd be interested in them following Shaquille Griffin in his return to Seattle this fall, because the first time he was here, he was a bona fide starter on the outside as a cornerback, and now he's a veteran coming back to a very different secondary, and he's essentially competing for the third cornerback spot. His spot on the roster is not guaranteed, very similar to the way Luke Wilson was fighting for a spot when he went to the Raiders. And I would also like to see the dynamic between Shaq, who has a great personality, and this new look secondary led by Devin Witherspoon and his dynamic personality. It would really be fun to see how those two gel and how Shaq fits with this group. It's almost full circle, because when Shaquille Griffin first got here, Richard Sherman was still in Seattle. So now we have Witherspoon, who sort of reminds me of Sherman in terms of his personality. So it would be interesting to see how all of that pans out. Keyshawn, you're next. What kind of surprising I'm surprised, by the way, the Niners have never been on Hard Knocks. What's your storyline of choice?
My storyline choice for the 49ers would actually be when they go down to Denver and take on the Broncos for joint practices. I mean, as you guys probably don't know, but there's a couple of former 49ers on the Broncos team. You know, Dre Greenlaw, Talanoa Hufanga. I think those are some fun matchups with Dre Greenlaw going against Christian McCaffrey or Hufanga going against George Kittle. But I want to tell you guys my favorite Hard Knocks moment with the Rams. It was actually back in 2016. Probably not the biggest storyline, but it was the very first episode. You guys probably don't remember this, but Deion Long, a wide receiver for the Rams at that time, he got in trouble for bringing a woman into his room, and Jeff Fisher was like, he brought him in, he's like, come on, man, I have, certain rules, and you just kind of broke the rule, and I just told you guys not to do that. And Deion Long was like, hey, man, it wasn't that long. I just had to bring me something. And then Jeff Fisher cut him on the spot. And it was like a big uproar on social media when that happened, because Deion, he wasn't just notable wide receiver on the team, but he actually lost his opportunity to make the team by trying to bring a girl into his room, very immature. And I remember Jeff Fisher kept saying over and over, we are not going to do 7-9 things. I mean, I hate to say it, but they ended up going 4-12. So it was an even worse record that he predicted. But, yeah, that's probably my favorite Hard Knocks moment with the Rams.
That is fantastic. Finally, Blake, anything down in Arizona that people remember from the 2022 version inside that season on Hard Knocks?
Yeah, so I'm going to keep it 100. I honestly was still in high school when the Cardinals got documented in 2022. I just started on staff here on Fox 10 like 6 months ago. But looking back at some of the moments, looking through Twitter and things like that, I will say that one that stands out just from scrolling through things is on one of the episodes, James Conner was having Christmas dinner with his mom, and they were kind of just reflecting on his journey from being diagnosed with lymphoma to ultimately getting drafted by the Steelers and now ending up with the Cardinals. So more of a heartwarming tale that Hard Knocks can bring out is some of those stories and emotional moments behind the lens. It doesn't always have to be the pads popping, and all that stuff is great, and the trash talking, but I think those emotional human interest stories are also fun to bring out in that behind-the-scenes access.
Well, the one great part about this show is nobody checks IDs to be on the show. So I'm glad you're joining us today, and congratulations on your graduation of high school back in, 2022 or 2023. When was it? What year?
2022 is when I graduated high school. Okay. I graduated from ASU this year. So
well, congratulations on that as well. And we're all now feeling very old. Okay, time for our last topic of the show. Who is your favorite player of all time for your respective team, and why? And who is your favorite player of all time from any other team in the division, and why? I'll go first on this one. My favorite Seahawk of all time is probably Doug Baldwin, just because I really got to live his full story as much as a journalist possibly could. I was aware of him when he was at Stanford, watched him play for Jim Harbaugh. They made it to the Orange Bowl, I think his junior or senior season. And then to see this undrafted guy with a very low chance of making the team start to make an impression in training camp, and then to be in San Diego for that first preseason game in 2011, and to see him as an undrafted rookie lead receivers in that preseason game. I think he had 4 catches, just 29 yards, and we interviewed him after the game, and it was like he had just won the Super Bowl. His emotions were incredibly high. He worked his butt off to make that team that year, and then he turned into one of the best receivers, possibly the best route runner in this team's history. He's 4th all-time in receiving yards, 3rd in touchdown catches, 4th in total catches. So to go from undrafted to that, it takes a very special kind of player. And my favorite player of all time elsewhere in the division, I've gotten some pressure to say Larry Fitzgerald, and I do love the guy. It's really hard not to pick him, but I am going to stay in Arizona. I'll go with the Seattle kid, Budda Baker. Talk about a fun player to watch close up. Ever since his days at Bellevue High School and then doing everything playing for the Huskies as well. Now I believe this is his 9th season with the Cardinals. Always been great with the media here in Seattle. He's a great guy, and we can still give him a hard time about getting run down by DK Metcalf on that potential pick 6 a few years back. So Budda Baker is my choice there. Blake, who's your favorite Cardinal of all time, and then your favorite player elsewhere in the division?
Yeah, so I'm going to go with the cop-out answer, Larry Fitzgerald. I was a wide receiver playing in youth football, and seeing Larry Fitzgerald during his prime days, he was one of the best receivers this game has ever seen, and just his demeanor as a hard worker, grinder, even through the highs and lows and the different transitions of the Cardinals franchise, he was always that consistent guy that you could rely upon all the way up until the bitter end of his career, which he hasn't officially announced his retirement yet, still to this day. But if I'm going with another player in the division, my athlete idol was Jerry Rice. And I know I may be seem young to say that, but I literally have a quote in my bedroom from Jerry Rice saying, "Today I will do what others won't, so tomorrow I can accomplish what others can't." I admired Jerry's work ethic from day one, and just seeing how he up until Tom Brady won all his Super Bowls, was widely considered the greatest football player of all time. I think Jerry Rice is just a remarkable work ethic, and his determination really inspired me to do what I'm doing now.
Certainly one of the best Seahawks to ever play the game, Jerry Rice. Yeah, Keyshawn, you're next. Your favorite Niner and then favorite other player in the division of all time?
Well, he's, not really known as a Niner, but hey, he made his impact while he was in the red and gold. I got to go with Mr. Primetime, Deion Sanders. I mean, his impact that he made on the Niners literally got them over the hump to finally beat the Dallas Cowboys in the NFC Championship and finally get their 5th championship. And then, since then, they've been on the quest for 6. But, man, Deion, he was the Defensive Player of the Year. He just turned things around and kind of took away Michael Irvin in those tight matches on one-on-one on the perimeter. So his impact was so big, and I don't think you guys know this, but that's when Deion became the first player ever in modern sports history to play in a Super Bowl and a World Series. I mean, I know most people expect me to pick Jerry Rice or Ronnie Lott, but, man, I got to go with Mr. Primetime. Now, my favorite player that's not a Niner that's in the NFC West, ooh, this is tough. It's either going to be Patrick Peterson or Earl Thomas, but I got to go with Earl Thomas, Aaron. I mean, Earl at that time in the 2010 was the best sideline-to-sideline safety, the centerpiece for the Legion of Boom, and honestly, he's probably the most consistent player in that secondary. I mean, Earl could do everything, be a ball hawk around the field, come downhill, and make big hits on receivers and running backs. I mean, most notably I remember Earl for was every time a running back would, diving towards the goal line, the pylon, Earl would chop the ball out, force fumble it, make it into a touchback. So Earl, he's going to be a Hall of Famer sooner than later. So, yeah, Earl Thomas, my favorite player that's not a Niner, and my favorite Niner of all time is Deion Sanders.
Wow, going with the defensive backs there, and two, not many that are better than those two defensive backs in general in terms of athletes in their prime of their careers. Lastly, Ryan, give me your favorite Ram of all time and then someone else in the division.
Yeah, I mean, we look at Rams history, so many choices from their time in LA to the greatest show on turf in St. Louis to now being back in LA. I'm going to throw a wild card out there that I doubt any of you have even heard of, but just I love his story, and I found out about it probably when I first started in this business, and I kind of discovered him, and his name is Dieter Brock. Now, Dieter Brock was a 10-time CFL quarterback, or 10-year, I should say, CFL quarterback. He signed in 1985 with the Rams. He still to this day is the oldest ever rookie quarterback of all time at 34 years old. And that year he led the Rams to the NFC Championship game, where they went on to lose to the 1985 Chicago Bears, arguably the greatest defense of all time. So had they not gone up against the vaunted Bears defense, Dieter Brock could go down as one of the most historic rookies of all time because of his age and leading the Rams to a potential Super Bowl. So I love his story. That was his only year. He played in the NFL, was done after that. But such a fun story and just kind of an interesting name in history and Rams history that probably not many people know. As far as non-Rams, I also cover USC, big USC guy, so I got to go with the Trojan legend and the Niner great, Ronnie Lott. I mean, one of the best safeties collegiately and in the pros of all time. Just the vicious hits. I don't even know if he could play in the NFL with today's rules in terms of how he was able to play the game and hit. He probably would get penalized almost every time. But just an absolute stud of a player, great human being, still very involved down here in LA with the USC Trojans. Helps out a lot with stuff around the campus and whatnot. So Ronnie Lott, all-time great. And Dieter Brock, for those that want to do some research, Rams legend, in my opinion.
That's awesome. And Ryan, you and Pete Carroll have something in common, because I believe Pete talked all the time about how much he loved Ronnie Lott as a player on the field, and he very much admired him. And also incredible how one game could determine that nobody knows Dieter Brock. Had he won that game, you're right, we would have all heard of this guy at some point. I certainly haven't. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Blake hasn't either. And then how about you, Keyshawn?
I have not, I'll be honest. And I'm a historian when it comes to football, but that's a name I don't really know about. And my dad's a huge Rams fan, so that's my bad on my part for not knowing who that is.
Yeah, Dieter Brock. I'd be more inclined to call him Brock Dieter. That's amazing. That's going to do it for us this week. Thank you, guys. Next week, with training camp upon us, we're going to take a closer look at some of the biggest storylines to keep an eye on as we head into the regular season. And a reminder, you can see us anytime on the Fox Local app. You can also see all of our stuff on our respective Fox Local websites, and also Ryan's great Rams content at lafbnetwork.com. Have a great week, everyone. We will see you next time.